you get those stones from
Yes,
the
you can
river?
get them.
They sell them or you?
They sell them.
They're just showing that the seabeds of the Himalayas.
You break them and it opens up like that, and there is the skeleton inside, ammonite skeleton.
But what was that symbol again, Maharaji?
It's called Shaligram.
And that,
Basically, it's an ammonite.
but it signifies.
It signifies that the manifestation of consciousness in the beginning.
It's the first life form.
First life form. Because in Hinduism there are Trinity, you know. The Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh. Like in Christianity, the Son, the Father and Holy Ghost. So Shiva is supposed to be like Holy Ghost.
Which is consciousness.
Which is Spirit.
Spirit.
Holy Spirit.
Didn't you once say that when they discovered that would signify the closing up of the mountains there?
That is the Badrinath mountain.
Huh.
That is up in the mountains.
Would that be the flood that was there?
The flood was there, yes.
And that was
The flood was not
prophesied.
in Badrinath side, it was only in Kedarnath side. But this is all global changes are happening, you know. This is just global warming is happening. The king of Japan was very much interested in Uttarakhand. He was inquiring from me that how did this happen. I said the glaciers melted. And there were lakes up in the mountains. It's like we have the Mansarovar lake, Rakshas Tal, all these small lakes are there. And the water from the lakes permeates, you know, it goes there under the earth. And then from different places the springs come. That's how this happens. You know. So these lakes burst because the glacier were melting. And the lakes could not contain the water, so just flooded. 8 lakes broke completely. That's how it happened.
And that was all prophesied, right?
Completely there.
Well, what's going to happen to the future water supply?
You saw that 2012, something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that. It really happened to us. And then one stone came up behind the temple that separated the water. Otherwise the temple would have been also destroyed. Only one stone, big one, came and stood there.
But wasn't the temple all the way covered, all the way to the top? Like under
No,
what?
no. Half it. Actually what happened was that from the Chorabadi glacier, there's a glacier called Chorabadi, the water used to flow, and the water used to flow from the left and right. Now what they did was, on the right side, they constructed all the houses. And the water was only from on the left side. So when the dam broke completely, like the lakes broke, everything was destroyed. It was horrifying.
How many people were lost their life?
More than 30,000. 40,000.
Has Red Cross been there? The Red Cross?
Only army was there.
You brought the army up, right?
I brought army, navy and air force.
What's going to happen to the future water supply, though? If the lakes are broke and
The
everything's melting.
water is still flowing, but the glacier melted, you know, heavily. Because there was so much of rain, the water of the rain was warm.
Mhm.
And when the water fell on the glacier, it melted. So the whole thing became very, very fast, you know, expedited, you know.
Saying that's happening in our
We have to monitor the lakes actually, basically. We have to see all the sources of water.
Mhm.
This didn't happen in Uttarakhand, it happened other places also. Ladakh, even in Bhutan, it happened other places also. Nepal.
You know, we were all young ones, we're all gonna go old, you know, whether we were single, whether we were with someone, you know, they're all phases of life, you know. But you are the center of all those phases, you know. So whatever you choose, you know, you have to be dedicated to that choice also. See, the main thing is that the mind will always be attached to or will think about something that it does not have. That is the movement of the mind. And the mind exists because of its movement. You know, because we are thinking about something, the mind overpowers the moment. You know, so the mind will always look for something to think, you know. Like I have ice cream in my hand, I'm looking at someone else's chocolate. So I'm forgetting what I have in my hand, you know. I'm not relishing it, not enjoying that moment. And if I do enjoy the moment, not see what other people have, then there is no movement, there is no conflict, you know. I will enjoy that ice cream, I'll enjoy the moment, and I'll gain the satisfaction, the contentment of eating a very good ice cream. But the moment I get something, my eyes are automatically looking at what other person has. So that movement can be only controlled by the self. So just don't worry about too many other things, you know, what people think, what people say, and that's maturing also, you know, in yourself, you know, so to speak. Because for sure we are conditioned to a lot of things, you know. One of the basic human conditioning is that we all want to be appreciated. But we do not learn to appreciate ourselves, we want the appreciation coming from someone else, recognition coming from someone else. Someone should smile at us, someone should look at us. And that is a conditioning that is very hard to break away from, because that's how we are taught, you know. All our friends, what they think of us is an influence, you know. We are trying to appease what our parents think of us, what our friends, you know, what the person I'm with thinks of me. So sometimes, you know, we get so lost in, you know, getting that appreciation from everyone, and we speculate what that appreciation would be, how we should behave, that somehow in playing those roles I forget what I am, you know, what is my central role. That is the most difficult conditioning to break out of, you know, and it happens, you know, when you slowly focus within yourself, when you make your own choices and you stick by them, you know, no matter what the world says and no matter what the world thinks, and you know, you find your place and your path. But you come to India so much, and you know, I mean, you have experienced both aspects of life. It's a challenge, you know, because you can only learn from your life, you know, and your life is the best teacher. Rest, someone gives us advice, we forget it in a moment. Yes. Someone tells us what to do, we'll say, oh, why are you telling me what to do? I know everything. You know, all these things will pose. But when life teaches us, there is no running around, there is no hiding behind corners, because it will put everything straight up, in, you know, for you to experience, and that is what life is.
It's, I think,
that there's so much that we can learn from, and so much from everything that we do. I mean, you know, simple acts, if you do it with love and kindness, can teach you very fascinating things. I mean, there's the whole story of Dattatreya Maharaj, you know, who is the incarnation of the Holy Trinity that we call Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. Because Brahmaji is never incarnated, you know, as per se. You know, there's no incarnation of Brahma, we'll say. Like Vishnu has his incarnation as, you know, different deities and different time periods. Shiva also has been reincarnated into the world at different times as Rudra or Bhairav, you know, manifestations of Shiva. But Brahma is never known to be a manifestation. But then, due to a penance of, or due to bhakti of a particular lady, you know, she asked a boon for all the gods. You know, that if I ever want a son, I want a son which has all your attributes. So Dattatreya Maharaj is the only incarnation which is said to be the manifestation of Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva combined together. So when Dattatreya Maharaj obviously came with such cosmic powers, you know, and he started living life, but then his journey is also an incredible journey, because he went through different stages of life at different, you know, periods of his life. But what you see, how he, you know, what his life story teaches us is that you can learn from every aspect. So when he was sitting once contemplating, seeing the wind flow, and he saw a blade of grass, and he saw that how the wind was, you know, like really strong, it was uprooting plants and trees, but the blade of grass gently swayed in the wind. So he said that, you know, one should not be rigid, because if one is rigid, there will be some sort of a force that will come, and an opposing force will uproot that rigidness, you know, from you. So sometimes if you are too rigid in your thought, you know, too arrogant in your thought, then something or the other will happen that will, you know, wipe that arrogance, you know, or, you know, make you completely destroyed. But then he looked at the blade of grass gently swaying. He's like, but if you're flexible, then no matter the strongest of storm will come, but like a blade of glass, you know, bends to the changing thing. You know, so then he learned from a cow. He learned humility of a cow, you know. I mean, what does the cow ask for in return? Nothing. I mean, it gives us milk, it gives us all that we need, you know, from that milk and that sustaining thing. but in turn it does not ask for anything. So like that, in his life he said he accepted 22 gurus, just by seeing the natural phenomena occurring through him, because he had the awareness to learn from each experience. And that's what he says is the Adi Guru. The Adi Guru, which is perpetual, is consciousness itself. And consciousness itself is imbibed in you, imbibed in you, imbibed in all of us. So consciousness is the greatest teacher, but we have to learn to listen to consciousness. Till that process doesn't start, then we are blind to so many things. We are blind to our own self, our own purpose, our own journey. So that is I feel is a very great factor. Why? Because he teaches through his life that you can learn from any moment in life, whatever is happening to you, there is a teaching behind it. But provided that you have the awareness, you have the clarity of the mind to penetrate through that learning. And he did it. So if you read about him, his life is also a very incredible journey. You will never realize the complete truth. For sure, you are a person with great skills and great capability or mental powers. But then to go beyond the mind won't be possible, because your ego is constrained within the mind and it's defining you. So then there's a whole conversation which is called Tripura Maharasya, and that's where Dattatreya Maharaj explains, Parshuramji, the purpose and the meaning, and how to overcome the ego, and it's a very big thing, very big book. So that's in English. Ramana Maharishi, like his organization has published this book in English, edited by him himself. And it's just Tripura Maharasya, you do Ramana Maharishi.
Yes.
Yes, the whole thing will come.
Ever since becoming maybe aware of the goal of life, there's just been so much restlessness about not wanting to do anything except just go straight up to that.
What's important is that one must understand the balance, because within the world, within this frame that we've come in, this existence, there are many roles you're already playing, whether you realize it or not. Someone's friend, someone's daughter, someone's sister. And these roles also have a purpose in them. Because if technically all these things were meaningless, then why would human society be formed? Why would we live culturally together? Why would we share our experiences? So there is substance to all these things. But these are transitory things. Meaning if I'm making a journey, then stopping at a rest house is not something bad. Because to make the journey, I'll make halts, I'll stop at an inn. But the inn does not become my destination. My halt does not become my destination. It is a transitory thing. I will take a halt, I will have rest, and then I move further. But many people think, okay, I've making a halt and this is my destination. This is the all of it. This is. So that hinders what we call the evolution of your consciousness or your journey, so to speak. So it becomes very important to also understand that all the roles that we play also have a function. Because if technically all these things were meaningless, then why would human society be formed? Why would we live culturally together? Why would we share our experiences? So there is substance to all these things, But these are transitory things. Meaning if I'm making a journey, then stopping at a rest house is not something bad. Because to make the journey, I'll make halts, I'll stop at an inn. But the inn does not become my destination. No? My halt does not become my destination. It is a transitory thing. I will take a halt, I will have rest, and then I move further. But many people think, okay, I've making a halt and this is my destination. This is the all of it. This is. So that hinders what we call the evolution of your consciousness or your journey, so to speak. So it becomes very important to also understand that all the roles that we play also have a function. These roles, fulfilling these roles and these duties will also teach us a lot of things. And those teachings will be very important in the further aspects of life, in the spiritual journeys you do. So the physical world is also important, the eternal world is also important. That is what we call the Sakar and the Nirakar. But both complement each other. You cannot have the Nirakar, how will you experience it without having the Sakar world? And the Sakar world does not exist by itself unless there is the Nirakar behind it, supporting it. So both are important, but the journey will stem from what? From a lower point to a higher point, Just like the flow of knowledge will come from a higher point to a lower point. In the same way, our journey, like if you are receiving something, then that will uplift us. No? So that's why our journey is from the Sakar to the Nirakar. It cannot happen the opposite way. You know, you cannot understand the Nirakar and then you understand the Sakar. You have to understand the Sakar, the world, your place in it, you know, how the worldly system works. Then only you can transcend it. So that's the journey every individual takes, and you know. So sometimes, you know, when people go into the extreme of shunning their worldly responsibilities, thinking, okay, even if I'm a father, I'm taking sannyas, someone else can take care of my children. Somewhere deep down within the consciousness, that can be a binding, that can be a ban, you know, because you have failed to perform your worldly duties. When you fail to perform your worldly duties in this moment of, you know, say a small moment of your life to be, your soul's journey, you know, because each lifetime is a figment for the soul. It's a moment of experience. Like if a person has taken 100 lives and deaths, he's gone through that, then one life is insignificant to the totality of the 100 experiences he's having. It's a moment in time. If you put a timeline, and if I put all my births in a timeline, then one experience is a moment in the timeline. It's a minute, it's an inch in the meter, you know. So the totality is something very different. But the inch that you're experiencing it's insignificant. But in that insignificant inch, if you cannot be true to your duties, then how can you be true to your duties in the totality? That is why understanding your worldly duties is also very important. Fulfilling them is equally important. And once you fulfill them, the foundation that is laid by fulfilling your worldly duties becomes the foundation of your spiritual journey. You know, because as a spiritual person, now say suppose I am a Siddhak and certain powers are given to me, and if foundation is not very strong, then what's the guarantee I will actually use those powers for the good that I am trying to project myself to be? And that's what happens. That most of the people, when they receive something, you know, when we say, okay, being in power is completely different than people who aspire to be in power. That we say, that power changes a person. Either it corrupts a person but there is some change in the person. Why? Because till I'm striving for that power, till I'm striving to become the President of America, my journey is completely different. You know? But when I've become the President of America, then my journey will be completely different. You know? Because it's easier to criticize, to tell someone, oh, he hasn't done this, he hasn't done that. Till I'm striving to be something, I'm criticizing other people. But then when I've accomplished that position, then other people will criticize me. You know, my actions, my judgment. So when I come to that point where I have the power to make certain decisions, you know, whether I'm true to myself or not, that also changes people. So that is why it is said that unless the foundation is very strong, the journey, if we take the journey too fast, or we hope for too many things in return, sometimes that journey made in a leap can also destroy us. This is called spiritual arrogance, you know, and that is also equally devastating. That is why you see a lot of people taking shortcuts and, you know, saying that, okay, we can do this and we can make the kundalini rise, or we'll do tantra and we'll do this, or we'll do tantric siddhis. But that is not meant for everyone, because many people cannot handle the force with which the power comes back into your life. You know? Like a simple thing I'll tell you. There are two very prominent forms of yoga in India. One is Ashtanga yoga, you know, which will teach you to understand the limitations of your body. And within the limitations of your body, they'll teach you the asanas that your body can naturally do. And then slowly, as the body's potential rises, they will teach you more and more further complex asanas. Now the journey to actually becoming a very good, you know, expert in yoga through the Ashtanga yoga takes many, many years. You can't go for a 6-month yoga course and become a yoga instructor in Ashtanga yoga. You know, because it's a years and years of experience, you know, that you will slowly encourage the body. Now you have a different form of yoga, which is the Iyengar yoga. BKS Iyengar was a yogi, he's still alive and he's in Pune and his ashram is there. And he has his disciples everywhere, you know, having Iyengar centers, and he teaches yoga. So what he says is that our life is very short. We've already created so much of problems in our life by not following the path of yoga. So now that you've come to the ashram, use any help necessary, any prop necessary, any way necessary to have the maximum benefit in the minimum period of time. So I also studied Iyengar yoga in Bombay, So what they made us do is, when I went for my first class, there was a friend with me who was going to Iyengar Yoga for the past 2 years. He encouraged me to join, and he's like, you just come and see. You don't need to come every day because it's a very aggressive form of yoga. Come thrice a week or on the weekends and things like that. The first class I went to, we did the basic asana, we did the pratna, everything happened. Then there was certain exercises certain people could do and certain exercises certain people couldn't do. Then the teacher came to me, he's like, can you do Shishasana, which is the headstand? I said, no, I haven't learnt it. He's like, no problem. He took me to a wall and there was a rope hanging like this, like in a U shape. And somehow he made me tie myself to the rope and he hung me upside down from the wall for 10 minutes. Now technically I'm not doing Shishasana as an asana, but I'm in the same position as I would be in the Shishasana. So the blood flowing inversely in my body, instead of flowing from head to toe, is flowing from the toe to the head. So there is a surge of blood going to your brain, Now the thing is that I'm doing Shishasana because that's the position I'm supposed to be in. But I'm not doing it with the natural state of the body, It is something that I've been put into. It's been forced. So for many people, Iyengar Yoga does not work out because they cannot handle the extreme pressures that the body goes through. So in the same way as your spiritual journey. For sure there are many ways, there's tantra and there's mantra and there's so many ways of, gaining something. But it's not conducive to everyone. Maybe for someone the mind is so strong that he can, focus on the journey and not be distracted, by other things. Because within the tantra and mantra, there are a lot of distractions, there are a lot of tests that you will go through. And if you fail one test within the tantra, the fall is very steep. That is why people go insane. People go mad. You see a lot of Babas in India roaming around talking gibberish. It's why? Because they followed a path which is not conducive to their growth. They could have taken the easier path, but they wanted everything to happen fast and instantaneously. And the simple wanting to do everything fast led to their downfall. And then they have to wait for that karmic cycle to finish so that they can start again. So the thing is that even if I'm doing something, but if it's not making me a good human being, in the entirety of it, what is the point? Because the basic things that are limiting me are still there. My anger limits me, my pride limits me, my arrogance limits me. But for that person, whatever he's doing is right because his guru told him, and that is his path, is his journey. So imagine for him the path is of patience, And maybe his guru thought that this is the teaching that he needs to learn the most, foremost, before he can start any other journey. So that path was very extreme for him. But the fact is that within the 7 years of standing on one leg, it's not the point that by standing on one leg something miracle will happen to you. But it's when you're going through that journey, how you're contemplating, how you're experiencing life, whether humility is coming or not. That is also essential part of your sadhana. Now if that process is not happening, then my sadhana is not in totality, I'm not doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. Because standing on one leg is a physical aspect to it. But then there's a mental aspect to it, that's happening. You're fighting with the mind moment to moment, you're fighting with the pain, you're fighting with the desire. But then that fight also has to move on into a deeper sense, where I fight with the negativity of myself, I fight with my anger. But for him, that journey hadn't been completed where, he could control his anger. Because in a moment when I started questioning him too much or I started telling him what you're doing is wrong, automatically his latent, nature started coming out, his anger or his restlessness started coming out. So that means even after standing for 12 years on one leg, like the basic problem that was meant to be fixed was not being fixed to begin with. So then the question arises that what he's doing is right or wrong. But according to him it is right. According to us from a different perspective, it is something that can be avoided. So that is why an individual has to find the right path which leads to the direct experience. There are many ways, there are many this thing, but it's meant for different temperament and different, past experiences that we are coming with. Because all of us come with a baggage in this world. And we add on to the baggage with each and every experience, Now the thing is to let go of everything. And to let go of everything, you have to learn to forgive and you have to learn to forget. And that is one thing that is very difficult for any one of us to do. Because you meet someone who has harmed you, immediately seeing his face or hearing his name will take out all those memories, will take out all those emotions, will take out all those feelings that you've long suppressed or you thought were forgotten. But if they are coming back, that means they were never completely forgotten, So it's different for different people. You know? It's how our temperament is. For some people, people are sensitive, they'll hold on to things longer. For some people, they are not sensitive, a little stronger, so they, you know, move from one experience to the other very fast, you know, without thinking about it. So, I mean, I guess the journey is, you know, each individual journey is very unique, you know. We cannot have certain guidelines that if happened to me, this will happen to the same person. But what is common for the journey to be completed is that all of us must have a sense of purpose to begin with, you know. And we must be dedicated to that purpose. And we must surrender to that purpose. Now, that if we can fulfill these criteria, then the journey becomes easier. Otherwise, life will teach you how to be humble any which way through experiences. So for each individual, what must be done, irrespective of, you know, what the circumstances and situations are, whether they are conducive or not, or whether they are not. And the true challenge of your purpose will only outshine itself when things are not conducive to your goal. Do you understand? Like there's an example that there was an old lady in the village. Everyone used to praise her, oh, she's so nice and she's such a good person, and that, you know, she really takes care of all her maids and the people working in the house and really loves them. Now one person came into the village and he heard about this lady's praise again and again. And he's like, okay, does the women have any problem? Like the girl, the old lady has any problem? The people said, no, she has no problem. She has a steady income, you know, she has a good house, you know, people help her. So the person said that how do you know that the person is good? Because there is nothing bad happening in her life. So her response to basic life is always good. Now let's create some problems in her life and then let's see how good she is. So the person who was supposed to like pay her whatever rent, you know, they said, okay, sorry, we don't have money this time. You know, we can't give you, we'll give you the rent of the house after 2 months. So what happened is automatically the first month was okay. She had her savings, she used that. The second month came, she had no income and there was no food in the house. You know, certain things were sparse. And then she started becoming angry on the maid that stop wasting this, stop doing that. So an adverse nature came. So meaning that is that everything is conducive in life and everything is going to what we want. How do we know the nature that comes out of us is our inherent nature? Obviously everything will be good, we will be all smiling if there's no problem. But when true problems or certain challenges do come in life, then is the true test, na? Whether I am dedicated to my purpose or not. Like if I am dedicated to my purpose, then my internal nature should not change irrespective whether I am having good things in life or bad things in life. My perception of the world should remain the same. But it doesn't. So that means there is a lot of work to be done inside. So it's a test, it's a gauging point. If whatever I have accomplished in the good times, whether they have retained in me or not. Because when the bad times will come, that's the only way to judge whether I have held on to my beliefs or my value systems or not. And that holding on to your value system is something that has to be done. Because who upholds the dharma? Like there's a story where this person went to a master and he said that we build a house, we put so many columns and so many pillars to support the house. The wall supports it, the pillars support it, you know. But then we see this world where the sky exists and the earth is there. But what is sustaining this balance? You know, we don't see pillars supporting the sky and the earth. Meaning this natural world exists. Where are its pillars? So the sage said, you asked a very good question, but I can't just give you an answer to this. But you have to do something, you have to live with me for a few days in order for me to give you this answer, because this is a very deep answer that the question is very deep. And I can't just in words put what the answer is. So the person is like, you know, I'll do anything what you ask me to do. So he said, okay, momentarily become my disciple, renounce the world, you know, I'll give you some, you know, simple aesthetic clothes, take that, and you travel with me. And after we travel for 3-4 days, within the journey, I'll explain to you, you know, the answer to your question. So the person starts traveling with him. They travel for a few days from one village to the other. Then they reach a very small village, which is a hamlet of say 20 odd huts together, you know. So they stop for the evening, they have no food. So the Sadhu Maharaj says, okay, you know, every day we've been asking, you know, villagers for food. They've been very kind to us, they've given us food. But today when you go and beg for food, do not do it in a polite manner. Do it in a very aggressive manner. Even if you have to abuse the other person, abuse the other person. Even if you have to shout at the other person, shout at the other person. but do not in a polite way ask for food. So even this disciple said, like, I mean, the person who had asked the question said, it's a very odd request, but since I've, surrendered myself to my master and I've told him that I'll do exactly what you tell me to do, so I will have to follow his rule. The first out he went, he knocked and he started shouting, very aggressively, give me food, what is this? There's no decent person in this house, in whatever aggressive way he could. Automatically this person opened the door and he's like, get out of here, Like you are begging for food and you have no humility, of asking also, and you're demanding food, we don't have any food for you. He was kicked out. He went to another person, he did the same thing. Some people who were more aggressive than him hit him, someone kicked him, and after getting beaten from one house, shouted at, from every house, he finally sees this last hut that is remaining. And he said, no, Guruji said to go to every house. So he's like, after I've received so many, abuses, so much of hate, I will not lose anything if I receive another slap from another house, I've already received so many, it doesn't matter. So he goes to that end home and he shouts and he does everything. When the door opens, a very, humble lady comes out. She bows down, she prostrates in front of him, she goes inside, and without a word, without any reaction to his negativity, she places whatever was inside the house to eat into the bowl and humbly touches the person's feet, and she goes inside the house, Now this person is so shocked because everywhere he went, to his reaction there was a reaction, He said something aggressively, the other person, gave the reply in that same way. If he abused someone, someone hit him. If he was negative to someone, someone kicked him out of the house. No one gave him food. But suddenly he sees this girl who gives him the food. He was aggressive to her, he said all the wrong things to her, he was abusive to her. But this lady still put food in the bowl and he sent. Now he's so shocked and taken aback that by the time he reaches his master realizes that something has happened to him. That's why he's so quiet, he's shocked. Master could read him. And when the master said, what happened to you? I know, I can make out something did happen to you. So he says, no, it's almost a miracle has happened to me. Because he's like, I did what you asked me to do, and every house that I went to, I was kicked out, I was beaten, I was abused. But then there's this one house that I went to, where even no matter how negative I was, I only received positivity. I received food, I received reverence, the lady touched my feet, and this is no short of a miracle, because I went to each household, everyone was human beings there. But then I didn't receive this response from anyone. So the Guru Maharaj laughs and says that you found the answer to your question. So he's like, what do you mean? He said, you asked me, what are the pillars of this world? What sustains what we call dharma in this world? So he's like, it's people like that lady that sustains what dharma is. Because dharma is not what the world does to you and what you do in return. Dharma is what will you do irrespective, what is right thing to do. So the right thing is that no matter if someone is in need for something, your duty as a human being is, if you can, you have to be there to the fulfillment of that person's need. Whether he's abusing, whether he's doing that. But we don't look at the world like that, no? We say, what have you done for me? That is the first question. I have done this for you. We relate everything in the world, even exchanges within the relationship, with a give and take feeling. Like we value certain things as an exchange. But then true love, there is no exchange. There is only surrender and there is only giving. So he said that when you say how does this world exist? This world exists because there are people like that who will always do the right thing, irrespective of what is given to them. Those are the people that uplift the dharma. And even if one person is uplifting the dharma, the world sustains on the hope that that one person can be the cause of the change. And in society, if you see, from the time where things have gone really bad, there has been only one person who has led the way. When things were very bad, there was a person called Jesus Christ who was born. He led the way. When things were very bad, there was one person called Prophet Muhammad who led the way. When things were very bad, there was one person called Buddha who led the way. And because they did it, they became beacons of hope for the rest of humanity. And that hope has sustained so many people, sustained so many lives. Maybe all those lives have not been fully transformed like Buddha's, but still that journey so many people have undertaken to transform their life like Buddha. So that has sustained dharma in the world. Otherwise, if man was left to its own mess of things, we could have easily destroyed the world ages ago. And we have done it. I mean, in history books we talk about the World War I and World War II. You know, the biggest wars that the world has fought. You know, but that's not the only wars we fought. If they were the only wars that mankind has fought, then World War II or World War I could have been, you know, the pride of human history in a way. Meaning that from those two wars, we have learned that war serves no purpose. They could have been marks in the human history to show, you know, that this was the folly of mankind. But before World War I, there were wars being fought ever since what? The Crusades were wars, you know. Before that, Alexander did wars. Before that, I mean, you look at any period of human history, you know, predates, you know, 10,000 years ago, what civilization? They were fighting, you know, for more land, for more thing. That fight continued. World War I came, World War II came. After World War II also we didn't learn anything. After dropping nuclear bombs, you know, I mean, we did it to ourselves, not to anyone else. And after that, we still haven't learned and we are still fighting wars. India and Pakistan are having a Cold War. You know, Palestine and Israel have been fighting for more than 60, 70 odd years. And those wars are continuing. So what have we learned out of it? Nothing. So left to our devices, we could have destroyed the world easily. But then you see that every faith, every belief system has certain beacons that have given the world hope. You know, that have somehow stayed the aggressive nature of mankind. And the world has sustained. Even after so many wars, life is progressing, life is moving on. Because there are people who are doing the right thing. And if they stop doing the right thing, then we will destroy ourselves. Where is the moral check? Where is the value system that we all adhere to or we aspire to? These things will not exist. So it becomes very important to do what is right, irrespective of what is happening to you, you know, around you. Because those around things, how can we change people's perception? When it's so difficult to change our own perception, you know. And if we could change our own perception, then only we have power to change someone else's perception. It doesn't work the opposite way around. It's not that I can cause other people to understand something and not understand it myself. It cannot work that way. So first I have to have a duty to my purpose in life. Once I am fulfilling that, then automatically you will be an inspiration to other people. Automatically you will have the power to help other people when the time is done.